In this video, we are going to continue talking about Photoshop selection tools. So in the last video, we talked primarily about the marquee tool. In this video, we're going to focus specifically more on other kinds of selection tools that Photoshop has to offer. So in the toolbox up on the left-hand side, we talked about the marquee tool. Just below this is the lasso tool. And the quick key for the lasso tool is the L key. Now, if your settings are the same as mine, it looks like a little representation of a lasso. And just like the marquee tool and all the tools, almost all the tools in here, it has a little arrow pointing to the bottom right. That means there's other subtools in here. So if I click on this, you can see, click and hold, there is a lasso tool, and then there's a polygonal lasso tool, and a magnetic lasso tool. And again, this has L's in all three of these. So what that indicates is that we can use the Shift L to toggle and cycle through these particular kinds of lassos. So I'm just going to start with the regular lasso, but I want to, again, get you guys used to pointing out the what's in here that can be toggled through by, again, adding Shift and the corresponding tool, whatever it may be. So L key for lasso, which I'm already on. And the lasso tool is very straightforward. I click and hold or click and drag my pen anywhere on the screen, and I can draw a selection, almost like I'm drawing a line. Now the lasso tool will automatically complete itself. You're trying to make loops and circles and things like this. So it will automatically complete itself if you don't do that. So if I come around and come here, it makes a selection as such. I'm going to Control D to deselect. But if I don't finish that loop, what the tool will do is if I let go here, it will automatically draw a straight line. So it just draws a straight line like that. So it tries to automatically finish because it has to close the loop to do a lasso. Now this can get a little weird. You gotta want to watch doing strange things like where you have this really crisscrossy pattern, and then what happens is if I let go here, it's going to draw a straight line from where I let go all the way to the start, which is going to go right down the middle. And you can do this, but it just gets weird results. So you can see here that we have several selections here. So I would avoid doing that. I Control D to deselect that. So what can you use Lasso Tool? Lasso Tool is, again, just for making selections, just kind of like the marquee tool. We can use it to select things on different layers, which we haven't got to yet. Or in this case, what we used last time was we can do fills and other commands such as this with these lasso tools, just like we did with the marquees. So I draw a lasso here. If I hit Shift Backspace, it will bring up the fill dialog. The fill dialog, once again, will list the foreground color, at least because it saves whatever your lasso setting is. But again, if you don't see this, it's the little downward chevron. You don't want it to be on content aware. We'll talk about that much later. But foreground color, background color is usually what I pick. I usually stick to the foreground color myself. So I hit OK. It's going to fill whatever the foreground color is. In this case, my foreground swatch is black. So I'm going to do this. So what else can you do with the lasso tool? Well, the lasso tool, again, behaves just like the selection. And again, I mentioned how Photoshop, wherever you can really kind of reuse certain quick keys for certain tools, and if they're in the kind of the same family, they share the exact same quick key. So, for example, like the marquee tool, we could add and subtract the selection by holding down Shift to add. So I'm going to hold down Shift and use the lasso here. We can add, and we can hold down Alt to take away. So you can see, I don't know, piggy with ears. I just did a fill right there. Oh, fun times. So yeah, we can add and take away, just like normal. And we can also do intersections. So again, to add is Shift and clicking, and Alt is to take away. Now the other kind of lassos, and again you can just hit Shift L to switch between these, but I'm going to go ahead and go up through the menu, or the toolbar, is the polygonal lasso. And all this is it's straight lines. The polygonal lasso works a little bit differently, however. I don't click and hold with this one. It works by clicks. And it doesn't, you can let go. So like, for example, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the polygonal lasso. And I can click and let go, move my mouse around, click and let go, click and let go, click and let go. So it doesn't automatically close as soon as you let go of clicking. What to do to close this lasso is you just hit the return or enter key on your keyboard, and it will close off the lasso. And again, it draws automatically straight to the section there, and finishes off a complete enclosed lasso. Once again, the polygonal lasso is no different from the other lasso or any other selection tool. We can add and take away. And granted, we can switch back to marquee tools and different other selection tools and subtract with those and things like that. The last one on here I can't really show, and I guess I can recreate it real quick. The magnetic lasso tries to trace a surface. This works pretty good on graphic design stuff as well as any photography type stuff that has a clear edge in it, and that's largely what it's used for. So if I had, I'm going to try to recreate this here. If I had some sort of edge, let's just say it's a semi-soft edge here, and it's not going to be perfect, but if I come in here and select the little magnetic lasso and draw on this, it will try to snap, and I'm just kind of going around that edge. Now I'll probably talk about this particular tool much later in the course lectures when we start getting into like image editing, because this is largely what I would use this tool for. It's just not one I use. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not one of my tools I use a lot. But it tries to trace around, and perhaps later I will have a lecture that talks about the merits of this tool a little bit more. So there's the magnetic lasso tool. Lasso. Back to the very lasso. I'm just going to deselect. Remember, Control A to select all. In my case, I'm just narrating what I'm doing. I switched to my foreground color white. I'm going to fill. This is a fancy way of basically deleting everything by filling it with white. So the lasso tool can be used to make selections. It's one of the many other selection tools. The next tool down the list is pretty straightforward. There's two of them. There's the quick selection tool and the magic wand tool. In this case, I'm going to probably stock, because I don't have an image ready for quick selection tool, I'm just going to talk about the magic wand tool, which I can create. And this is probably not your default icon. It's probably the quick selection tool. So again, you can see W is the wand tool, and Shift W will allow you to switch between those tools. So the wand tool is a much older tool. It's much more straightforward. What the wand tool does is it allows you to sample sections of color or shape or value on a picture. Let's say you have this thing completely filled. I'm just picking random colors here. And let's say I come in here and I do some fills, and I have just some random pictures in here. And let's just say it's a full painting. But we have a decent clear edge on some of these. This is more of a fuzzy feathered edge. The wand tool can grab this. Again, it's just not as good as grabbing this. It will kind of eventually have to cut somewhere. There are other tricks around there, but we can't really go into those just yet. Again, future lecture. But the wand tool can be used to grab definitely things with sharp edges, no problem. So again, I'm going to hit the W key. And again, if you're not on the wand tool and you're on quick selection, I advise that you switch to the wand tool because you will experience different behavior. So I'm on the wand tool. If I click on this green one, what it's going to do is it's going to, if I look at the properties, it's going to sample based on a point sample, which means wherever I'm going to click, and it has this thing called a tolerance. So what that means is whatever the value is, it's going to move the value of the colors or value, in this case 10 steps away from that initial clicked value and select everything in them. So when it's very solid shapes like this, it's going to grab the whole thing. So you can see I just clicked and it drew a selection around this. So I can now select that and I could do something else. Maybe I want to change the color. And I haven't talked about how to move things yet, but we could move this as well. And why not? We'll go ahead and jump to the Move tool as well because we skipped past it. But the Move tool on your toolbar is at the very, very top of the toolbar. It was one we skipped over when we went straight to the marquee selection tools. And the quick key for this is the V key. And the V key brings up the Move tool. And we can just, if you have something selected, or if it's on a different layer, which we haven't got to layers yet, we can drag this around and move anything selected. And this is true for technically any selection that we make. So if I select this and hit the V key and drag this around, you can see we can do this. But there's definitely a better way of doing this once we get to layers and future lectures. So you can totally get by using the Move tool like this, but yeah, stay tuned for those lectures when we get to layers, which will be a huge help. So I'm going to go ahead and fill over this to get this back. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a gradient here real quick just to showcase this a little bit more. But I'm going to go back to the wand tool to kind of really double down and show you what the tolerance does. So if I click on the left side, which is the darker part of this gradient, you can see it selects that section. If I were to increase this tolerance, let's say 50, I'm going to deselect. The tolerance is still 50. And I click again, it selects a larger selection. So this tolerance controls what it selects. So if you have things of varying color, you can attempt to play with the tolerance to get more of that selection. Or if you're getting too much, you can try toning that number down to get less of it. Let's see. That's probably good enough for the wand tool. There's a few other things that I don't think we're going to go into just yet. But those are the selection tools. Oh yes, and the wand tool just again also supports if you hold down Shift, you add to a selection, just like any other selection tool. Or if you hold down Alt, you can take away from a selection. So it does follow that as well. So don't forget that when a lot of these tools, in this case selection tools, they follow the same set of quick keys when applicable. All right. I think that does it for selection. This one's pretty short. See you next time.